Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, and I've got Mark Allen on the show today to talk about our favorite time of the year, IRONMAN World Championships coming up here in Kona. And to talk about Mark, what he's up to, and also talk about this special year that it's somehow the 40th anniversary, and Mark's still about 50 years old. So that's amazing. Mark, thanks for coming on to give us a little update of what's going on with you and how you are doing in your world down there in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Debbie. Yeah, it's been an exciting year for Ironman, around everything Ironman, just because it is the 40th anniversary. And, you know, if you think about it, I mean, it's not that many years, but there's been so many amazing stories that have taken place and transpired over all those years. You know, I think everybody kind of who has ever done Ironman, especially in Hawaii and Kona, you know, we all have the same basic dream, which is to cross that finish line. Mm-hmm. But how you cross it and the journey that you go through to get to that makes thousands of different dreams. You know, there's 2,000 different journeys every year from each athlete. And so many of those are very inspiring for other people. You know, that you don't have to be the champion to inspire somebody, as you know. Maybe you have a friend who did it or who wants to do it, and the two of you get together, and all of a sudden, you know, you're training for triathlons, and then, you know, one of you or both of you qualifies for Kona, and it's just this amazing experience. And it's not just amazing for the athletes, obviously, it's amazing for everybody who watches and who participates and who helps and who works aid stations and who's just there cheering and who's at the finish line at midnight when the last athletes cross. It's, you know, it's an experience in sport like I don't know if there's anything else like it, just because of the energy and the island itself is obviously so special, and it really creates an atmosphere for this amazing thing called Ironman, and here we are, 40 years of it.
When was your first year? How many years ago was your first year doing Ironman Hawaii?
The first year that I did Hawaii was in 1982. I was 24. I was just going to do it once. You know, I mean, I was like everybody. I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I want to cross the finish line. Yeah. And back in 82, it was very easy to get in. You didn't have to qualify. So it was kind of a low risk.
People.
Yeah, it was a low risk 8 months out of my life. You know, I got a used bike. I started training. I had a swimming background, so I kind of knew how to train, but I didn't know how to do it for biking and running. Anyway, you know, 1 year turned into a 15-year career, which turned into, you know, here we are in 2018, and I'm still involved with the sport. So how is this year different? It seems like, you know, following you on social media, and it seems like 40th anniversary this year seems to be different. I'm getting a different feel from the leading up to the race this year in October. But what makes this year different, unique, or special? Well, one of the things is that a lot of stories have been told or retold about different parts of the history that have been amazing. I actually wrote a series of blogs called 40 Stories, and they're still going up. I thought there's 40 years of dreams, you know, 40 years of that's Ironman's theme this year for the race is 40 years of dreams. So I thought I want to do something to really honor the history. And so I thought, let me write 40 different stories about things that I've experienced there or seen or witnessed that I think were, you know, for me personally, were very impactful. And so I came up with this concept way back in the spring, and I actually wrote a list of 40 stories that I wanted to write about. You know, some of them are about the top pros, some of them are about age groupers that did things that I think are amazing. Some of them are just about the race itself, you know, the finish line and how amazing it is. And and then I started writing them. I had all 40 written before the first one went up on my blog on Mark Allen Coaching.
It sounds familiar when you wrote your book on quotes that just all came out. So you must just have this stored creative brain. Once you let it open up, it's just a flood happens.
If I have the right catalyst, it's like, it is like turning on the faucet, and it doesn't turn off until everything is completely drained out of the tub. And so, it was so easy to write them, actually, and I think about it, it's like, wow, 40 posts about different things that happen in Kona. That's a lot of stories, right? But anyway, we post 2 a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays on my blog at markallencoaching.com, markallencoaching.com/blog. And then the last week, Monday through Friday of race week, is going to be fast and furious. We're posting 5 stories that week to bring all 40 in on the day before the race. So, I don't know if you've checked them out, but for sure, people out there, check them out. There's some fun stories. It's obviously there are thousands of stories that could be told about the race. There's so many incredible moments, and so the 40 that I chose are in no way necessarily the best story. And there's hundreds that were are still being told. Ironman for sure has been telling a lot of different stories about the history of the sport and of the race in Hawaii on their website throughout the year. And some of our stories are the same, and obviously a lot of them are different. So it's anyway. So that's a long way of saying that this is a different year. It's a special year because people are sort of reflecting on the history, reflecting on the legacy, reflecting on the inspiration of people who have done the race. And a lot of folks really wanted to try to qualify this year to be part of what is historic. There will never be another 40th anniversary, obviously. So it's pretty exciting. You joke that I'm 50, whatever, I'm 60. So I figure the next big anniversary is going to be in 2028. I'll be 70 at that point. Like, okay, I don't know. I better do something now, because you never know what 10 years from now. So.
Yeah. So it seems like, there's a lot more talk, and I'm looking forward to going as well. And hoping to share that experience with people that can't be there, because as you said earlier, it is such a magical day. And I raced many years there and on your team, and then not going for a couple of years, it was just so sad. And on that race day, you're trying to watch it on TV or your, internet. It's just so different, and you just get goosebumps and just talking about it. It's just so unique. There isn't, I don't know if anything else is like that day. And I feel that I'm not able to do triathlon, distance yet with health reasons, but it's just, since I stopped racing in 2012, it's just, you still want to be involved. So if you can just even be on the sidelines and soak it up on race day, even up that Wednesday to Saturday, and even the day after the race, is just such a amazing time. And it's just such a unique feeling.
People put so much energy into qualifying for the race, and then once they qualify, to actually be ready on race day. And so, excuse me, it's a real focused thing that happens. I mean, I guess you could say that happens with any big event, like whatever, a major marathon, or any big sporting event like that. But there's just something unique about everybody coming into Kona, and it's, as it's a small town, it's a small place, and so all of a sudden it's like the hub of triathlon universe right there for that week. Everybody comes in early, they're swimming at the pier, there's just this excitement that's building. And then at the welcome banquet, it's really the first time where all of the athletes do get together. And this year will probably be, that'll be an amazing evening, just because I'm sure they're going to highlight a lot of the great stories from the past, and people will. It gives you a sense that you're really connected to something amazing and pretty cool. There's so many ordinary people who've done extraordinary things there, and people who have really shown that pretty much anything is impossible. I mean, a lot of the challenge athletes who have raced over the years, true inspirations of people saying, I have to move around in this wheelchair, or I don't have a leg, but that doesn't mean that I have to sit around. You know, I'm going to do an Ironman just like everybody else, and I'm an athlete just like everybody else. True inspiration. So it's, you know, and then race morning, as you know, is just there. It's like the ultimate bottled up force of energy, you know, because everybody's ready, everybody's waiting for that cannon to sound the start of their Ironman day, and it's part of what's exciting is that it's so unknown. You know, what's going to happen? What will the weather be like? As an athlete, will I be able to handle the winds? Will I be able to handle the heat, the distance? I know I've trained, but to put it all together in Hawaii is a whole different animal. And, you know, so much of that obviously is the energy of the island, which is very strong. And it's, you know, when you're racing there, when you are asking yourself to get the best out of your performance in Hawaii, the island has a way of sort of arranging to get that out of you. And often that comes through challenge, right? I mean, if it's easy, we're not giving our best. But if we're really challenged, it forces us to go to a place deep within ourselves that maybe we don't go to very often, to draw strength and to draw engagement in this impossible moment, to get past it so that we can take that next step, so that we can get to the next aid station, so that we can cross the finish line. And that's, I think, also what makes it such a special race, is that it is really hard. And through the difficulty of it, especially people who are trying to hit their absolute best performance there, it reveals something to them and to everybody else about strength that maybe they didn't know that they even had, or they learned something just kind of about dealing with themselves and with life in a way that they would have never experienced had they just been hanging around and sitting on the beach and drinking Mai Tais, you know. And so it's really special. And then, as you know, being at the finish line there's so much energy and so much excitement. And you know, people, especially the people when they start to come in after dark, you know, they've been out on the marathon. It's dark. You know, when you're out on the run course, it's not like there's spotlights out there and street lights. It's dark. It's dark. It's really dark. And so all of a sudden here they've been in this sort of insulated place where they're completely dealing with themselves, except for those little oases of aid stations every mile. And then they come into town, and all of a sudden they're coming down Ali'i Drive, and you can just see the light bulb going on. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to finish. And you know, they come in, and Mike Riley and the other announcers are bringing them in, and it's just it's a great energy.
Love it. Good. Just makes me excited. So, going to my next question is: now that you've been in the industry a long time, and what have you learned now that you wish you knew back then, or would you do anything differently, since you obviously did very well and won many times? But what if as you become a wise man, a wise coach, yourself coaching other people, what would you do differently, or suggest that, things that you would do now?
Most of the things I would do the same. Probably the one thing that I would actually change, try to change anyway, would be a little bit my mindset. I could have been a little more relaxed, to be honest.
You're like known for the relaxed man and just the Zen state.
Well, maybe I'm quiet, but inside it was like I was very intense and very focused. And, part of that was how I was able to gather all this energy and put it out on the day that counted. I mean, you have to be on that one day of the year. It's not like, I'm tired today, let me do it tomorrow on Sunday. No, you have to do it on that one.
There's no option.
Amazing Saturday in October. And so that takes gathering all that energy. And the way I did that was to just sort of be quiet and sort of insulate myself and get my mind to be quiet. And there's a whole lot of levels of that. But I would have probably just been a little more relaxed throughout the year. I mean, you can be relaxed and focused at the same time. And I really saw this in the final Ironman that I did. It was probably the most relaxed that I had ever been at the race. And it was just a different experience. Like, things just worked a little better all throughout the day. My nutrition worked a little better. I wasn't as worried about getting too much or too little fluids and calories. It just all sort of went in just right. And so I think there's a level of being relaxed within the focus it takes to have the performance you want that I could have incorporated or worked with better. And it's also something that I do try to relay to my athletes who race in Kona is like, you've done the training and it is an amazing day, but just enjoy that and use that energy to pull the best out of you that you can. If it was completely no pressure, you wouldn't have a great race. So that pressure is actually a good thing, but stay relaxed within it, because then it will be a truly amazing experience. It'll be, a dream for you as well.
Yeah. This is definitely true. I always found the best races when I was just happy and having a good time and relaxed and confident. And then, getting the energy from the island, but from everyone around me too, made a huge difference, was my best times. So another question in that area is nutrition has changed so much back from when Ironman started, and knowing different research and how you fuel now and train athletes. What would you suggest you would do if you were doing Ironman next month? How would you fuel your body and in training as well as race day?
Well, I think, when I raced, people were probably trying to actually get in too many calories an hour. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people got sick, me included, nauseous and throw up on the bike or, whatever. And we've, the science has gotten a little more refined, and we've realized, no, there's an upper limit to what you can shove in there and actually absorb. And if you put in more than you're absorbing, it all backs up. So, excuse me. And so, the amounts that people are taking in are actually probably a little less now than when I was racing, which enables you to actually keep the whole system going. The other thing is that, the products are just better. Back in the days that I was racing, there were so many cases where people were coming into the medical tent completely depleted of sodium, and they were having cramping and they were practically delirious. And in the beginning, the doctors thought that these people were dehydrated. Well, they weren't. It was that they were low on sodium. And so now, so many of the sport drinks actually have a very solid amount of sodium so that can be replaced during the race. So then, your performance doesn't dip, your concentration stays up, your muscles keep working right. You don't feel as heavy when you're going through things as will happen if you do get low on sodium. And then also, at the end, you're in much better shape. So it's the science of the nutrition has actually been the last thing to really start to get dialed in. The equipment and the bike technology and everything else around it has really had years of refining, but the nutrition finally now, I would say in the last 5 or 6 years, has gotten really good as well.
So with everyone experimenting, you've always done the heart rate training to burn fat, metabolic efficiency before it was even known, metabolic efficiency using the max aerobic function heart rate, the MAFATO method. But for nutritionally, are you more of a lower carbohydrate person, or do you find, I believe everyone's different by individual. So it just is figuring out what amount for everyone of carbs and fat they need and protein. But for you, what's your viewpoint of, there's keto endurance now and low carb, high fat? Are you still into lots of carbs and on race day and training?
Well, I was never into a high carb diet. Even in the early years, I could just tell that my body was craving good oils, craving good protein. It wasn't, I wanted some carbohydrate, but I didn't want as much as everybody was saying we needed. And so I think I tuned into that pretty early. I would say that a lot of the diets now that are saying do this so that you restrict your carbohydrates so your body will learn to burn fat, I think a lot of them are extreme, and I don't think any human is set up to do well on extreme restricted diets over long periods of time. Maybe for a very short period you might get some good benefits, but I'm not sold on a lot of the very extreme, super low carbohydrate diets that people are on. You need some carbohydrate. Fat burns in the flame of carbohydrate. So if you're not getting enough, if you're burning through all the carbohydrate reserves that you have, the only way to keep that fat engine burning is to break down lean muscle mass, break down your muscle, get that convert over to carbohydrate, glucose, which then keeps the fat burning going. So, just sort of the fundamental question that I have is, well, if you're super restricting your carbohydrates and you're going into, a ketosis state, you're going to be breaking down lean muscle to keep fueling that fat burning engine. I want to hold on to my muscle. I don't want to break it down just to stay warm and to have all my bodily functions working. And so anyway, I'm sure the final word has not been said about a lot of the diets and how they relate to performance in an endurance event like Ironman. Ironman is extreme, and so I think that debate will go on for a while.
I know, it seems like that. So any supplements do you find that work best to add into amino acids or enzymes or probiotics? Are you into all that side of it when you're working with athletes or yourself?
They're called supplements for a reason. They should supplement a really good, healthy diet. And so I don't focus on that at all. I'm sure there are things that you can do to tweak to make things work a little bit better for you through nutritional supplements, but I kind of steer clear of that, just because the main focus should be get the stuff you need through the food that you eat. That's not always easy. As we know, a lot of the food, even organic, doesn't have the same nutrient density that it had 100 years ago because of depleted soils and stuff. But and what we do as endurance athletes requires a lot more micronutrients than somebody who's just sitting around. So, maybe your need for calories goes up 30% because of what you're doing through your exercise, but through all the metabolic things that go on during that exercise, you might need 50 or 60% more micronutrients, vitamins and minerals to keep those reactions going. So, it may be beneficial for people to take a vitamin mineral supplement. There was one study done a number of years ago where they did autopsies on long-term endurance athletes, and a lot of them were, when they looked at their cells were very nutrient depleted. They looked like they were malnourished. And these are people who were, quote unquote healthy. So, you just have to tune in and say, is my body getting everything it needs? And if not, try to figure out how you're going to correct that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just interviewed on a podcast yesterday, and I was talking about, what's free to, eat real food, but instead of having to take supplements, ideally we sit, relax, and eat our food. Take, 3 breaths in, a long exhale, and just hit that reset button. And then eat your food by chewing it slowly and tasting it, and not just rushing through what we do every day and just throw it down and just move on to the next activity. So my big tip I keep saying to clients is that, make sure when you're eating, you're sitting and eating, not working and talking and being on your phone and texting and inhaling it, because you're shutting off that parasympathetic nervous state and you're in that sympathetic state while you're eating, and that doesn't digest your food, the natural processes. So if you want to eat real good quality foods, but then are you digesting your food properly and absorbing the nutrients properly is the next step. So I think easy way is just to tell people to stop, slow down, and enjoy your meal, like you do in Europe. I was just in Paris last week for a quick little vacation, and we want to get in and eat in 10 minutes and leave, and they want you to sit, for 2 hours, and you have to beg for the bill saying, I'm ready to go, and you feel guilty because you're supposed to enjoy your meal. And we could pick up some tips from the Europeans how to eat properly.
Yeah, I think that whole mindset extends to everything, including recovery. I actually wrote an article about saying that, in my opinion, I think social media can ruin people's recovery, because when I raced, I would train hard and then I'd come home and I would relax. And a lot of that time was spent just hanging out with my family, or, maybe watching a movie or something like that, reading a book. But it wasn't spent with this quick flash scrolling through Instagram and scrolling through Facebook and looking at Twitter and all this stuff that's like, it's sort of like eating high calorie dense food for your brain. It's like you get these quick hits of this stuff and you move on to the next thing. So maybe you have your feet up, but your brain is still working at high capacity. Your brain and your mind needs time to relax, as you just said about, so your food absorbs, right? But you also need that so that your whole body also goes through a real relaxed recovery state. Probably most people nowadays, the only time they get that is when they are actually asleep. And I think we need other time during the day where we're awake, where our mind is just quiet, where we're daydreaming, maybe we're out in nature and just, not occupied with this fast stuff that goes on in, with all the electronics that we have.
I think that's a big part of coaching athletes. That's what I call the holistic method when I coach people is that part of recovery and disconnecting to connect to yourself and others, and just unplugging, going for a walk first thing in the morning. Ideally, you're supposed to do barefoot, get out in nature, get some sunlight, and just getting outside. But I think so many people, and that's why I'm trying to coach and do this podcast, is teach triathletes that, is not just training. You have to focus on all these other elements, as you've always talked about. But I think people overlook that to take care of the whole the whole athlete, there's so much more. And that's why I keep trying to add that into our podcast topics, because it's, training, I'm doing my swim, bike, run workouts, but what do you do in the rest of the time is so essential to really improve your performance. I think is that recovery time that, just lying there, just do some breathing exercises on the floor for 10 minutes. What else are you doing? But I think, the cell phones, just even being in Paris last week, I'm seeing people walking down the street and they don't move at all. If you're in front of them, they're reading their phones, not seeing anything and being alert. And it's just all over the world. I think it's becoming an epidemic. So, I know.
Yeah, as I've mentioned on a lot of your podcasts, I co-teach a workshop with Brant Secunda called Fit Soul, Fit Body. And Brant is a shaman in the Huichol Indian tradition. And one of the main things that the Huichol Indians focus on are practices to help you help you quiet your mind, to feel peace, to let go of negative thoughts and to adopt positive thoughts, so that you don't have to scroll through 100 photos on Instagram to feel good about life. You actually just feel good about life, sitting in your garden or watching a sunrise or a sunset. And we have a book, Fit Soul, Fit Body, 9 Keys to a Healthier, Happier You. And those 9 keys in the book address things that were basically like my template, my roadmap for actually winning in Kona. Quieting your mind, connecting with the world of nature, slowing down to get faster in your workouts, knowing and setting your quest. Like why do the things that you put a lot of energy into have purpose and meaning to you? And then living what you ask for. It's like, okay, I want to do Ironman just because it sounds cool. That's a great reason. But then it's like, okay, I want to cross the finish line. I actually have to do this training. It's not going to happen by me just wishing it into form. And so anyway, we have a workshop coming up in February in Santa Cruz, another one at the Kirpalo Institute in Massachusetts in March in 2019. So those are great 2.5, 3 days to just, like you said, get away and disconnect, and to tune into that sort of primal or ancient genetics that we all have in common, where we do take time. Our ancestors took time to be quiet, to be connected to community. They moved a lot, but they didn't burn their bodies out by just sprinting up and down the hills all day long. And then, I try to incorporate a lot of that philosophy in my coaching. It's set up so that hopefully the workouts are sustainable for people. They're not going to get them really fit really quick, and then in 4 months they're going to be burned out by it. So
So that kind of leads to the last question for you is, who is Mark Allen today? So 30 years ago you're the grip, the triathlete. How would you explain yourself now, and what are you up to?
I actually was talking with my son about this. I said, I think really fundamentally I'm kind of the same person I've been my whole life. Maybe I do different things than I used to do. Now I teach workshops with Brant. I do corporate speaking. I have a coaching service, which we're actually relaunching. You can see. We partnered with a company called Final Surge that has a great interface where people can upload, their workout data. It's just great. You have to check it out. finalsurge.com/markallen/plans, and that explains everything that we have. And that's it's exciting for me to take what I learned through the sport of triathlon, which was, it was 15 years of my adult life. It was where I kind of learned a lot of my knowledge and got a lot of experiences that were very personal through the challenge of trying to win Ironman and trying to be, the best I could in the sport. And I love translating that and providing as much of that information out there into the world to other people who are trying to be the best they can be at triathlon or at their business or in their family life, whatever it is. And it's just fun to take some of this stuff and hopefully give it back in a way that will help others in their lives as well.
That's great. Well, you're doing, so the Mark Allen Coach and We Go, do you want to send people to that website? We'll put in the show notes, Final Surge.
Yes, finalsurge.com/markallen/plans, and that'll explain everything we have going there. We've moved everything over to it. We have the old app still up for people who are using it, but the new one, everybody who's gone over and tried it, they're like, oh my God, this is awesome. And it's actually finally a partnership that has taken my online coaching to the point that I've wanted to get it to since I started in the very beginning, but there were technological challenges to doing that. And now this partnership has put it all together. It's really exciting.
Do what you do best and hire the rest. I learned that years ago in college. Stay away from the technology part and just do your coaching and what you are so good at doing.
That's a great saying. Yeah.
So Ironman week, you're going to be really busy and you've got probably interviews and lots going on. You've got some athletes. Is your son racing?
My son's racing. He qualified last year in Ironman South Korea in September, so he's qualified for this October. He's excited, because both his parents race in Kona. He's been there, he's seen the race, and now he's going to be able to experience it firsthand, so he's pretty excited.
So you've got that going on. You're always working for NBC on the motorcycle on race day and at the finish line all day. What else you've got going on that week?
Well, I'll be there basically as a brand ambassador for Ironman, so I go to a lot of the events and give talks to people, and I'm just out and about and around and doing a lot of stuff. Of course, there's a lot of things going on that I'll take part in, the Parade of Nations and the welcome banquet, the awards dinner. I'll be at the finish line. And then, I'll also be there with my athletes, so that'll be great because I get to meet a lot of them in person that I've never met before. I'll be doing stuff with companies that I work with, like Ventum Bikes, just to, be around what they're doing and help them with their products as well. So a lot of stuff.
That's why I love going, because it's such good networking and socializing with everyone in this industry. And I don't really say I'm going on vacation, because it's not a vacation. It's just I'm going to a trade show. It's the Triathlon World Conference. There's just so much going on, and every company seems to be there, and every top person and anyone you want to meet is going to be there in the industry. So it's like the place to be if you want to make some connections and be involved in the triathlon world.
Yeah, it's definitely not a week where I decompress. It's it's a lot of work. It's intense on many different levels, but it's also really great. I too get to connect with people that I only see once a year, and so it's just real exciting to be back and to be a part of the event. I'm looking forward again because it is the 40th anniversary of the race, and I think there will just be a little bit of an extra sparkle around everything this year.
I'm so excited. Well, I look forward to seeing you there. Hopefully we can catch up on the Sunday after the race. I know everyone's busy that week, but I'll see you in passing, and I look forward to watching your son too. That's pretty exciting. Yeah,
that'll be exciting. So, great week. Again, check out the 40 stories post that I put up on my coaching site. That's at markallencoaching.com/blog. If you're interested in coming to the Fit Soul, Fit Body retreats, you can go to you can actually go to shamanism.com and click on programs, and you'll see You'll see all those listed. And then, of course, if you're interested in coaching, everything's now at finalsurge.com/markallen/plans. It's really cool.
You are busy. You got a lot going on.
Love it. Yeah.
Good for you. Well, I'm proud to say that you were my coach, and that I wish I was racing, but someday I'll get back there myself. It's been 5 years suddenly, but I'm excited to be a part of the event, the 40th anniversary myself. So I look forward to seeing everyone, my annual event, see my friends as well, and our old teammates and everything. So it's always an exciting time for everyone. So thank you. We'll put everything in the show notes. So make sure you guys click down below the podcast link. You'll find the show notes and ask any questions on the Whole Athlete podcast page and website. So thank you, Mark, for your time today, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
All right. We'll see you in Kona. Take care, Debbie.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.